Humber Wave Radio 106.9.
Good evening and welcome to Hull and Back podcast and Tiger Talk here on Humber Wave Radio. I hope you're all well. Wednesday night, us four are depressed. And, that's basically, I'm sure, the story of all Hull City fans at the moment after last night's performance. But we're not going to kick off with that. We're going to kick off with other things. I'm going to say good evening. I'm Eddie Wright.
I'm Joe Collins.
Oh, Paul.
I'm Paul Wright.
He's locked up, and I'm Chris Sorensen.
And we're here, as I say, on Tiger Talk. Good evening, everybody. We're here on Tiger Talk on Humber Wave Radio and to Hull and Back podcast. And are we all doing? Are we all right?
Yes, but no.
Yeah, been better. Yeah, been better.
In terms of like general life, yeah, I'm pretty good. But we are all in the state of mind where we allow a football club to determine our general mood every once in a while. And last night was absolutely dire. The way I see it is Cardiff know that when the impetus is on us to go out and control the game and make something of the game, i.e. when we're the home team, we struggle. So they set up as though they were away from home. Let us have the ball. They sat deep, almost as if they were going to come to the MKM, like a lot of teams have done, and we struggled to break them down. I think it was a team, I think in the first half especially, it was a game that nobody wanted to lose, and I think that was quite clear. But then we did the same thing we always do and give away something quite stupid. I think it's hard if you're not a goalkeeper to put yourself in Panda's shoes. So I'm not going to pass judgment on whether he should catch that or not because he had to move for it. Only he will know the true speed of how the ball was coming at him, how early he saw it. So I'm not going to say Ivor Panda should have caught it, but we needed to deal with the corner that came after that and the subsequent recovery and cross which led to the goal better than we did. The deflection's unfortunate, but we're just not good enough at defending those situations.
What I want to do, I want to talk to you, Joe, about this because I did say off air just before we came on that I'd say about the Sunderland game that I went to on Saturday. Before we do that, let's just say please get in touch with us. Have a comment if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, anywhere like that. Comment, tell us what your thoughts are. Tell us what your thoughts are staying up are. I'm sure it was a big dent in our survival chances last night. And you can WhatsApp us if you're listening on the radio on 01482 772 663. As I say, I wanted to mention that I went to Sunderland on Saturday, and I thought, me and Chris have just been saying that I thought we played all right there, to be honest, but I'm watching it from a stand. I'm not sure if you was watching it on telly, was you, Chris?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. I think you always get a different perspective when you're watching in the stands when you watch it on TV. And you've just said, Joe, about Ivor Pandor and should, he will know whether he should have caught it or not. Well, here's what I'm going to say to you. I was stood right behind the goal for City's goal on Saturday. Their keeper tries to catch that ball. The ball ended up in the back of the net. Ivor Pandor, he sees that on Saturday. My brother-in-law, David, good evening if you're listening and watching. He came with me. He videoed the goal on his phone. He got his phone out, and just because it was a corner, he videoed it. And he plays it back in slow motion. And there's about 20 fans that are all around us, and they're all watching this goal back in slow motion, and it going just through the goalie's hands, And that's how he got a really good slow-mo of it. And you could see from that slow-mo how it went through the goalie's hands. So I want to say, if you want to try and catch that and it goes in the back of the net like your Sunderland goalkeeper did, then I think you're getting a lot more flack than what Ivor's had over the last 24 hours for punching it away. Because I think you made the right decision, to be quite honest with you. When you've seen the howler that the Sunderland goalie made on Saturday, if Ivor makes that howler by trying to catch it and then it ends up in the back of the net, we're all shouting at him for that. So I think ultimately he made the right decision. I want to talk a little bit more about the Sunderland thing just before we go on to last night's match, just because we obviously won that game 1-0. We didn't play the best, but we played okay. We defended really well. The goal's a good goal. We kept hold of that for a long period of the game. It was a very nervous last 20 minutes, stood there watching the game from the stands. Now, my brother-in-law lives in Newcastle, and his friend's a Sunderland fan. And he got a lift in to the game with his Sunderland fan friend, and it arranged for me and him to get a lift back to Newcastle with his Sunderland fan friend after the game. So there was a couple of little awkward moments on the way back when we're sort of saying, just picking each other up and sort of saying, and he said, we was absolutely rubbish today. He said, it's the worst I've seen us play. Was absolutely garbage, and you deserve the win. So I thought, oh, good. That's made it not as much of an awkward journey back to Newcastle, because it was a good 35, 40 minutes in the car because of the traffic from Sunderland back to Newcastle. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say on the Sunderland thing, and, referring to last night's game and what Ivo Pandor should have done. I mean, Paul, you was called the cat at one point because you played in goal quite regularly. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, it's easier after the event, isn't it? I think, probably I think he should have caught it, but I can understand why he hasn't. Most goalkeepers palm it away, don't they? Especially from a free kick. So I'm nothing against him palming it away. It's a regular thing nowadays. I think, especially with foreign keepers, they do tend to palm away and punch a lot and things like that, which English keepers, try and catch the ball and things like mostly. It's not a guaranteed, but I haven't got anything against him, to be honest. I don't think Saturday's goal by us should have out to do with Tuesday night's game at Cardiff. If he's thought that, I don't think that's sensible. He's obviously seen what's happened, decided to go and palm it away. Nothing wrong with that, Unfortunately, as Joe said,
it palms it well away, though, doesn't it?
I'm not against what he's done.
If you're at goalkeeper school, the first thing the teacher is palm it out so that it goes out and it don't bounce to a place. So he palms it the right way.
I don't think he did anything majorly wrong. I think, as Joe said, we didn't deal with the next ball. And I mean, it came from a Regan Slater slip up initially, didn't it?
It did.
Then he committed the foul. And it all sort of came from there. So where do you start it all? Who do you blame? Or it's just bad defending at the end of the day. We had nobody on the edge of the area when, was it Robinson got the ball? We should have had somebody closer to him. He's their main striker. Who was, happy that he was playing. It was just bad defending at the end of the day. But what I want to say, again, this including the Sunderland game, we scores a goal and we've got a couple of times when we're through. And it's that next pass when we're through with maybe a 3 against 2 or a 3 against 3. We always make the wrong decision. We never make the right decision. Crooks is through and he squares it in a bad position for, what's his name?
It was Joseph.
He didn't really put it on the plate for him, did he?
But the pass was never on, Paul. Regardless of who was stood there, regardless of who was passing it to, the pass was never on.
No, that's what I'm saying. He should have shot. He should have shot. That's what I'm saying. We make these decisions regularly where we make, we should pass and we shoot, or we should shoot and we pass. And I don't understand what they're thinking. You'd have thought Crooks would have shot. He scores a good goal the other week, didn't he? Early on against Sheffield United, he thought he'd guaranteed to shoot. I reckon Joseph stood in the middle, thought, what's happening here? He's passing the ball. And I can't. This is the trouble I think we've got. Get to the 18-yard box and we ain't got a clue what to do.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I do think you're right. Chris, I want to ask you a question. There's a lot of blame culture from fans to lots of different players at Hull City. Is it right?
No, and you can't really call it. Though they're giving the blame culture, you do have to highlight the players that are stepping up this season, especially. Yes, we can look back at the previous seasons of certain players where we've gone, they've done it, they did the job, they've done really well. I thought they were going to kick on. But then you look at this season and players haven't kicked on. We can easily, there's so many players we can look at and put them under that kind of title, let's call it. Even look at Omar, for instance. Like last season, we all said this season he was going to be the number one. and he was just an utter disappointment. So he started getting a bit of the blame when he was played out of position here and there, which tried to point blame. There are obviously highlighted, I'd say, 2 to 3 players in recent weeks and recent months that are getting a flack a heck of a lot more than most everybody else on the team. Do I feel it's justified? Certain players, a little bit with the form and the way they're playing the ball. And the only reason why I'm saying a little bit is because they're not playing anything like they did last season. And I think the one name that's all going to jump out of us is the person who actually give away the free kick before conceding our goal. And he's been taking tons and tons of criticism recently. And I think last night didn't do him any justice at all. If I'm being honest with everybody, I think for the first 5 minutes, I think not only was he the wrong person to be on the pitch, but...
Are we talking about Regan Slater here?
We are indeed, yeah. And I think he was the wrong person to be on the pitch, not just because it's Regan Slater and he's doing this. He was just outmanned from start. When Cardiff were lofting the ball in the air, and you got Regan Slater trying to win those battles against the big, tall central midfielders. He lost every single one. And
who was you putting in, Chris, instead of him?
At that moment in time, I would have started with Puerta.
Okay.
And actually, I would have moved Crooksy a bit deeper. You needed, if you're looking at Cardiff and you're looking how big their central midfielders are and how compact they were playing, surely you should have kind of a tree in the middle of that to stop those type of big balls coming over the top and those big plays.
I just think we need to stick a bit of context in as well, because obviously Slater was brought in for Alzate,
yeah,
who had a little injury. It was described as DOMS, which is something like delayed onset muscle stiffness or strain or something like that.
I've had that today. I've been for a massage before the show tonight because I've got that, I can tell you. It's mainly in the neck and shoulders because learners tend to break really hard, and it's like, yeah, I got that. So, yeah, I understand. But I want on the subs bench today. I still went out to work.
There you go.
Anyway, yeah, that's why Stephen Alzate didn't play, because it was too much of a risk. And we can shout about Stephen Alzate should have started. He should have got brought on when Matazo came off instead of Puerta, whatever. My point to that is if Stephen Alzate starts and gets injured, if Ruben then comes out and says he was feeling a little bit of something, but we risked him, then everyone's putting the blame on Ruben Sayers for taking that risk with him when they make the argument we've got Matazo.
It's a difficult situation, isn't it? You know, when we look at this, I mean, you know, we look at a lot of things here on Tiger Talk and on to Hull and Back podcast, and the things that, you know, one thing you've got to sort of look at is the injuries this season. And when we look at, you know, our unluckiness that we have, when you think you've got Casey Palmer, who's not in, Matazo gets injured last night, Zambrano gets banned, you know, I think we've probably made a mistake myself, and you know, people will probably disagree with me. I'm happy for people to disagree with me. I think we made a mistake at letting Xavier Simons go out on loan, to be quite honest with you, because I think he was somebody who could be in that midfield position that Christian's talking about Regan Slater being in last night. Regan had openly admit that's not his favoured position. He likes to play a bit further forward and, you know, start the attacks off and stuff like that. And he's done well in that position when he's played there. His chances there has been limited for the amount of players that we've had that have preferred that position. But, you know, Xavier Simons absolutely loves the battle. And I think we've probably been a bit stupid with the, you know, problems that we've had with injuries and Zambrano, you know, Palmer, all those things. I think it was a bit silly at letting him out on loan. What do you think?
I think you're bang on. I can't argue with any of that, Eddie. Like, I think you're spot on. Losing Xavi out, would we have him right now, this split second? Of course we would. with all the injuries.
He'd have come on last night, wouldn't he, Christian?
Oh, of course he would. Of course he would have. And I agree with what you said about Slater as well, playing in that position. It's not his best position. The only reason why he's there is because he's an engine, so he can carry the ball up the pitch.
Yeah.
That's his job. That was his job. The only problem is you can't have a player carrying the ball up the pitch if he never has the ball face and he doesn't face the right way.
No.
Because he was always going backwards. And I think it was definitely evident that he wasn't the right man, especially when he picked up the ball, which drove me insane because he played to the whistle.
Yeah, you do.
And
you taught that at a young age, and that frustrates me, Christian, as well. You know, you taught that at a young age, and as a professional footballer, you shouldn't be touching that ball until the whistle goes.
Exactly.
And he didn't even try to disguise it either. That's the thing. When players sometimes do that, they go down and like sit on the ball to try and win a free kick.
Yeah.
You can see why they've done it in that sense, because they've gone down and they've just tried to force the referee into giving something.
Yeah,
because they've landed on the
ball. I do think it was a foul. He did catch his foot, and I do think it was a foul. But we all know the standard of refereeing in the Championship, and we know a lot of the time we're not going to get that decision. So you just got to
pick the ball up.
No,
you bend down and pick the ball up with your hands. Like
I think we've said regularly on the podcast and on the radio that we are as a team, we aren't clever enough when it comes to the sportsman side of the game. You know, they call it sportsmanship. It's basically cheating, but it's sportsmanship is what it's called these days. So, we aren't clever enough at sportsmanship. And because every other team plays it so well, it really affects us because we're not clever enough.
Yeah. We don't play to the pretty much what we can call it as the letter of the law of the game. Because people will try and do their best to, I don't want to say manipulate the result or manipulate a call, but if they feel something's happened, they will try and get it to their advantage. And we just saw it. The
things that are involved, Christian, these days, the amount of money that's involved, this one little decision, whether it's a throw-in, whether it's anything like that, going against you, going for you, all these things, there's so much riding on these decisions that people are trying whatever method they can to get the decision to go their way.
Yeah,
and we're not clever enough at doing that. And that is the thing that, frustrates the hell out of me, I'll be honest with you, is that, listen, I like you'll know, everybody knows I defend Louis Coyle regularly on the show. So, he's got my full support. I saw Tommy at Sunderland. He said hi to me on Saturday. Just want to say Tommy's comment he put on Twitter, that Louis basically got pure passion for the club. He loves the clubs, and fans need to understand that players see and hear all the negative comments. And in my experience, from being involved in sport, it hurts, and in some cases, it can affect the performance. We need to back the lads, and I agree. We need to back the lads. One thing that does frustrate me sometimes, though, with Louis is that as the captain of the club, I'd like him to get in the referee's ear a little bit more. I'd like him to do a bit more of talking to the referee because I don't think he does enough. And when you see other teams' captains, they're always at the referee. And you wonder, does it get them a little bit more because they're at the referee all the time? And this is a question that, I would ask Louis to his face. So I'm not saying anything on here that I wouldn't ask him to his face. Would it get him a bit more if he was a bit more vocal to the referee? Because ultimately he's the one who has to be vocal to the referee because other players can get carded for it. He can't because he's allowed to go talk to the referee. And that's what they call it. They call it talking to the referee. None of them are. They're shouting in his ear. They're telling him what for, but he's talking to the referee as far as anybody's concerned. And I think we need to, these are the little things that when you're talking about sportsmanship, gamesmanship, trying to win a game however you can, this is part of it, isn't it?
Is he like, would you class him as captain material?
Listen, I think the thing with it is, I think some of the things that he does when you're talking about how he is with players, how he tries to, be a voice for the players and all them sort of things. Yes, he definitely is. I think that he needs to be, I don't know what the word is, more horrible because it's like too nice.
It's like you're saying he's a captain off the pitch.
Yeah.
But on the pitch, I don't want to say he isn't, but
listen, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he gives a lot of encouragement to the players. I'm sure he's talking to the players all the time. I think that, you know, my criticism of him would be that he needs to be more vocal to the officials, because ultimately, I don't know, I haven't looked at the stats, and you know, some statter out there will have looked at it, but how many decisions over a season do we get for us, and how many do we get against us? Because you know, these teams that have got people who shout a lot at the ref, when I'm watching it, I always think they're getting a lot more decisions than what we are, and it's probably because they're in the ref's ear all the time. It might be me, I might be wrong, I might be saying something wrong, but that's my opinion of it.
Well, I think one of the problems we've got with Louis Coyle, he's not playing that well, not as well as he has done. Let's put it that way this season. And I think we should maybe, you know, he's all right off the pitch with people, bringing the new players in, making them feel at home, taking them around the city, or whatever he does. I don't think he's strong enough on the pitch, personally. I think somebody, and I don't think, you know, when you look at his vice captain, is Jones, isn't it? He's not particularly a strong person in that respect. I think somebody like Hughes would be better. You know, I don't think he would take any nonsense, and he would, you know, he could have two captains, one on the pitch and one off. Louis knows Hull. He's a Hull lad. He likes helping out. Why not have two captains and put Hughes as the captain? Because I think you're right. I think if they're getting somebody, the referee's ear a little bit, you maybe get the odd decision go your way, what you wouldn't got. You know, and I think Hughes is the type of person who would do that. You know, I just think Louis is probably too nice on the pitch to be a captain. You know, on the pitch, he's a lovely fellow off it, obviously, and he's having a bad season. You've got to think of his form as well. And you've just said they get to see all these comments. It might be playing on his mind a bit. Might just take his mind off what he maybe should be doing a little bit. Where Hughes isn't getting that, is he? He's getting rave reviews nearly every week. Everybody's happy to see him on the pitch, and he can probably take it on the chin. You know that. This sort of having a go at the referee a little bit, or having a word with him. I don't think it'd bother him. I think we need a change of captain in that respect, because I think Louis Coyle is too nice to be an on-the-field captain.
You might be right, and it'd be interesting to know what everybody's views are. We've got any comments coming in yet, Joe?
We have one on that, actually, from Coxey, that he's the quietest captain. I'm sure he's decent in the dressing room, but on the pitch, he's quiet as a mouse. If we go back up, Coxey says, is it time for Sayers to stop trying to be the aggressor and take a page out the Cardiff book and just play on the counter? The issue I have with that is when teams don't attack, then you've got nothing to counter. And that's what Cardiff didn't do for that entire first half when we had 70% of possession. We had 67% of possession in the whole game. And you know, but the fact of the matter is we just didn't create enough with it. Simon says Plymouth will set up the exact same when we just don't have the quality or the nous, I think, more importantly, to play against a low block.
I think,
Alzate and his injury. And look, it's awkward, isn't it? Because with regard to Coyle, a comment has just come in actually explaining what I'm about to say, that taking the captaincy from one of the longest serving players is like, what if Louis struggling with form already? If we're going to do that, then
it is,
what
I agree.
Impact does that have on him?
It could go totally the other way. I agree with what they're saying there. I do get that, and I think it is a fair point. You know, you don't want to.
Just because he's one of the longest serving players, does he have to be captain? You want somebody who's going to be vocal.
It's really tricky, isn't it? Because
I like Louis Coyle, but I think it needs somebody who's going to be more vocal.
Smallwood came in that summer and got the captaincy straight away. Yeah, and that's because he was experienced, a leader in the dressing room immediately. So Grant McCann took the armband off Jordy Device, who had it temporarily after Eric Lehigh left, when the season was extended beyond the end of his contract because of COVID. He said, look, Jordy, you had it temporarily, but this guy's come in. But the circumstances we're talking about are totally different. You're giving it to let's use the example of Charlie Hughes like you've used, Paul. You're not giving it to someone who's a seasoned EFL veteran in that case. You're giving
I'll come on to Jan's comment at the moment. I'll come on to Jan's comment. She's put, blimey, she agrees with me again, twice, Jan. She said she thinks Louis needs to be vocal to the players on the pitch too. She said that when Alfie Jones was the captain, when he stood in for Louis Coyle, you could hear him from the stands. She put, you can't have Hughes, though. He's too young and inexperienced at championship level. And, I can agree with that. I can agree.
Well, I can agree with it, but it's the person you are. That's what it is. It's about being the person. If you're a strong person, you can take it on. It doesn't matter about being experienced at this level. It's about getting the other players around you G'd up and getting them going and, having a go at the referee or what have you. It's about personality, I think, captaincy. It's not necessarily about anything else because, Louis Coyle is a whole lad. He does really well. He puts his heart and soul on the line. He's getting loads of flack for his performances over the season. He's probably, like you've been saying earlier on, one of the people who gets most flack, I think. Yeah. Out of everybody this season, he's probably had the most flack. He's got that. He's got the captaincy. Hughes hasn't got that. And just because he's young, it doesn't mean he can't be a strong personality. We all know people who are young and strong personalities. Some people are old and weak personalities. I just think taking it off him wouldn't do any harm. If you take it off him, have a word with him for the right reason. Look, Louis, you're not having the best season. You're having a lot of flack off social media and things like that. I want to take something off you. I'm going to give it to Hughes. I don't see there's any problem with that. I don't agree with this age thing. It's like saying you've got a good player at 17, but he can't get in the first team because he's 17. Rooney was in Everton's team at 17. Can't make an age thing and say that's the reason he can't be captain. That is ridiculous. I think it's
I can hear what you're saying. Listen, have your comments. Tell us who you think the captain should be if it shouldn't be Louis Cole, or tell us it should still be Louis Cole. We'd love to hear from you tonight. You can get in touch with us. Let us know what you think. One of the things that you maybe you listeners and you watchers are surprised about is that we haven't seen our star winger come in and take us by storm yet. Dukan Sinek still at the club, and he hasn't been on the bench or anything yet, Joe, has he?
I'm not biting. I'm going to move it on.
Can I move it on to someone with regard to a winger, actually?
Well, this is what I'm going to move it on to. Obviously, you're talking about Louis Barry and that injury, and we'll talk about injuries now. Barry, he might be back by the end of the season, judging by that statement. But with the stage of the season we're at, and you've got to get him back up to fitness again, it's very unlikely. And what it does mean, though, is if we stay in this division, there is a better chance we keep him for next season, which I don't think is a bad thing. And I want to see him prove himself a bit more because 2 starts. And when he comes off injured after 20 minutes in one of them, that's not enough. Elio Matazo as the second one, injury-wise. Oh, dear.
Do we know how bad that one is yet?
No, we don't as yet, but it didn't look good because he didn't have much pressure on him when he had his
boots and put a bit longer studs in, hasn't he? I think his studs seemed to get caught in the pitch a little bit when I watched it back. It seemed like his studs had got caught in the pitch a little bit, and that's what had caused the problem more than anything.
Well, we don't know what boots he changed into or out of necessarily, but he was under very little pressure. Two players around him, but it wasn't a physical challenge. It was just 2 players closing him down, and he went down on his own. His left knee gave way, and it could be 4 serious knee injuries.
We have been really unlucky with injuries when you look at the things that are going on. I mean, Matazo got obviously man of the match against Sunderland, and he'd come in and started really well last night. And it's another miss for us, and it's another disappointment, and it's a thing that can cause you problems. On the midfielders, Andrew Scott says he thinks that letting Simons go was the right decision. Cardiff stopped us from playing, and their goal came from so many errors from us. He's worried for the Plymouth game, but he thinks we'll stay up. I'm not so sure. I think if we lost the Plymouth game, I think that, you know, we're probably looking like we're down there. It's a game that we need to be winning. I think that my big problem when you look at it, he said that, you know, we had no creativity last night and the attackers was poor. I agree with him. And I think, you know, Paul, my dad, he said it earlier. We don't make the right decision. It's been our season. In that final 18 yards, the final 25 yards, we don't seem to make the right decision at any point. And I don't know whether that's nerves. I don't know whether it's because the players aren't good enough. I'm not sure what it is as to why we don't make the right decision, but we don't make the right decision often enough. And I think that costs us, to be quite honest. We play backwards too much. You know, you talked about Slater earlier, Chris playing backwards. It's because he's facing the wrong way. He needs to be facing the right way. He needs to be on the half turn, ready to turn into their half or into our half, depending on what's around him. But we do play backwards far too much. And that's, you know, part of our issue, because when you look at our defence has not been that bad this season. We've not conceded that many goals this season. We just haven't scored enough goals this season, and that is what our problem is. And we can go back again to the injuries, can't we? You know, because when you look at our creativity, we've lost Miller, we've now lost Barry, you know, Balumi's been out, even Kamara's had a couple of injuries. And on Kamara, I thought when he came on last night, he actually looked okay.
Yeah, that's sort of left back than anything else.
I thought left back he was dire. Like we had that counter near the end, and I was sat watching it, and I used a lot more expletives than I'm going to use now. But I thought,
thank God for that.
If you actually like put your back into it, metaphorically put your foot down, put the afterburners on, and run with a bit of desire, you're miles clear of Andy Runamotta there, and then you're one-on-one with the keeper. And
he does put a really good ball in before that, and nobody's there for it. And that's the frustration. You know, what we have is this thing. We have the two players that both go to the exact same place. They're both on the same line on the pitch, instead of one player going and one player hanging back. Because if that happened, we would score far more goals than we do. We never have they're always, if it's the 6-yard line, they're both on the 6-yard line. And the ball goes into the 18-yard line. If we're on the 18-yard line, it goes into the 6-yard line. Why do they not play one in front of the other? And that probably comes back to you, Paul. You've said it nearly every time we've been on this podcast. Why we're not playing two up front? And that would probably suit us far better at the moment than anything else, because we could play 3-5-2. You know, you could probably play Kamara or somebody like that as a wing back and let him get up the wing a little bit more. And then you've got the two attackers, and that might just help us to stay in the Championship this season, because ultimately that's our big problem. We've got to try and stay in the Championship. We've got 12 games left now.
Yeah, I think so.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah. So 12 games left. We're very close to going into the bottom 3. You know, last night definitely didn't help. If we don't get a win against Plymouth next week, then we'd probably go into the bottom 3. You know, I'm still really worried about it, to be honest.
Well, at home, I just want to say on this, at home, we've still got the bottom 4 away teams to play in the league. Plymouth, Luton, Oxford and Derby are the 4 worst teams in the division away from home.
Mind you, Cardiff was one of the worst at home in the division, and they've managed to turn us over.
And who is the worst team at home this season?
Probably us now.
Well, that's for you guys to figure out, but
I can tell you, I know who it is already, because I've seen the league table, and Hull City are the worst team at home this season.
You see, the problem is
the problem, isn't it?
At home, you know, if teams come and set up like Cardiff did, they're all saying Plymouth will play the same. Stoke played similar, didn't they? If they set up and we can't break them down, which we do struggle to do, there's only going to be one winner, you know, and it's the other team, isn't it? Because you know, we just can't seem to get anybody to. We don't play too far. I mean, with 1-0 down, we need the points. It's a massive game, and we take off Joseph. I know he wasn't having the best game, to be fair, but he's a forward. We've paid money for him. We bring on another forward in his place. Why not sling 2 up? Have a go. If you're going to lose 2-0, it doesn't make a lot of difference. You know, but you might get that goal back. We had one chance and it was Jones, when he'll put it straight at the keeper virtually, which, you know, you'd like to think he could have done better with. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's poor when you've got, you know, that's about, you've only shot on target just about.
Well, it was the only shot. It was 87 minutes, wasn't it, in the game? And it was our first shot on target, which is terrible. You know, how is that your first shot on target at 87 minutes in a football game when you're a professional footballer and you kick that ball around all week long?
We don't shoot enough as well outside the area.
About going forward, I just want to say it didn't, in the first half, it didn't make it easier for us that Lincoln was just not in position at all. Because I thought, as I was watching it, I thought this setup was really weird. Because as we moved the ball left to right, as we were doing, Coyle was pushing so far up, but Lincoln was tucked right in, almost sat behind Kyle Joseph.
I think that was a tactic, though, wasn't it, Joe? I don't think it was Lincoln that was not playing in the right position. I think it was a tactic because he openly admitted on Saturday that he'd changed the tactics slightly and had people playing in a little bit more and stuff like that. So I think it was a tactic that he was trying last night. And, you know, this is... It's all right maybe having to play about with things at the start of the season or if you're in a reasonable position. But at the moment... we've just got to be solid at the back and try and score a goal up front. That's basically what we've got to do to try and stay in this league. It's not a time to experiment and mess about with things. It's a time to get it solid at the back and try and get the goal scorers to score some goals.
Yeah, well, they are sort of solid as you said, aren't they, to be fair? Our defensive record, I would imagine, you know, stands pretty good in the position that we're in, around that, you know. I think we're doing well there. It's the goal scoring, isn't it, which we've had a problem all season.
Of course it is.
But playing one forward, I mean, Pedro, bless him, he's passed one virtually 30 or 40 yards across to our keeper from one of his, when he went, what is he doing there? He shouldn't be there. You know, but he tries his hard to get the ball and do something, doesn't he? And I just think we want him up front, but if you had 2 up front, you'd still at least have a forward up there. You know, and I just think, you know, if you
look at, I mean, we'll take this point on that we've just said about Paul here. If you look at our goals against, we've had 44 goals against us. Stoke, who were 1 place above us, has had 47. Cardiff, who were 2 places above us, had 55. Plymouth have had 68. Derby's had 47, and Luton's had 55 against them. Just goes to show, I mean, for 44. The next place that you're going up to is 15th in the league. Preston have had 41 against them. Everybody else has had more goals against them than we've had. So it goes to show where our problem is. We've had 33 goals for, and when you look at the table here, there is only Derby and Luton who have not scored more goals than us. That is the only 2 teams.
The supporters, it's Macca. It's Coyle, you know, a Slater, anybody but the forwards, you know, should be scoring goals. They're the ones who always get the flack, but the defensive setup isn't that bad. It's the goal scoring.
Defense is great. You can see it's 44 goals against, you know, as I said, there's not that many teams. Obviously, top teams have had less against than that. But, you know, if you're looking at Coventry in 7th position, they've had 42 goals against them. Watford in 9th have had 48 goals against them. It goes to show that our defence is probably up there with the top 8 teams in the table. Yeah,
it's at the bottom 8 for everything else with the goal scoring and chances created. This is the thing.
It's the bottom. Goal scoring is the bottom 3. There's us, there's Luton, and there's Derby. Derby have done the same as us, 33 goals. Luton scored 31 goals, and we've scored 33. So that's basically it. Then you're looking for other teams there as we've got Oxford on 34 and Stoke on 34. You know, it's absolutely crazy that we haven't scored enough goals, and that's the reason for the season being a problem. It's not because of our defence, it's because of the attack and not scoring enough. Have we got any more comments coming in, Joe?
We have. Harry says the 3-5-2 makes no sense because we don't have any proper wing backs. Harry also says people need to stop bullying Kamara. He's by far our most creative player.
I think when you listen to the commentary, Kamara started off at left back. He's probably as good at a left wing back. If you look at what Keane Lewis Potter's doing for Brentford, when he signed for Brentford, I bet you he didn't expect to be playing left back, but apparently his assists this season, I think they're well in double figures are his assists for this season. So I disagree with him there. I think that you can put somebody like Kamara at that left wing back position and play them there, because you're not asking them then to do as much defensive work. You're asking them to do some attacking work and drop back every now and again.
And he's still doing more than Giles did.
Yeah, he still would do more than Giles did, Chris. You're right, yeah. You're right.
What do you think about Joe Gelhardt? Do you think we're getting not enough out of him? I puts the effort in. I mean, do you think he's playing in the right position?
No.
I think that Joe, you know, if we had the chance to sign Joe, I would sign Joe up. His effort's there. He's good on the ball. He's strong. I think he's been a little bit unlucky at times. You know, I do think that you're right. He's not playing in the right position. But that's, again, that situation, isn't it? Whereas if you did play a 3-5-2, which Harry don't want to do, but if you did play a 3-5-2, then basically you would be able to put Gelhardt up there with somebody like Pedro. Pedro wins the header. Geldhardt's off him. You've scored a goal because he's that rapid. There's no stopping him.
But that's the thing. You look at what we've look. We're all saying our attack is an issue and everything like that. But if you start playing the two up front, look how much that does open up. With Bairstow, for instance, he can play up there, quite rapid. Pedro likes to hold up the ball, play a pass. So you've got someone to lay off and hold the ball up and play on.
Joseph's rapid, isn't he, Chris? You know, if
Joseph's
you play Pedro,
rapid, yeah.
I mean, you said, Paul, didn't you? You know, you took off Joseph, you've brought Pedro on. Why not leave them both on? Let Pedro win them headers, get Joseph to run off him.
You know? That's it. We've got all these players that we could actually do that. I mean, even Lincoln, for crying out loud, his best position is that kind of cam centre forward gap where I'm not saying he's going to be explosive or anything like that. He's the guy that likes to play those through balls in to the actual striker that's going to play him off. He's not someone who can dribble fast. He's not someone that can do anything like that. He's just someone who can get the ball, turn and do a little crazy flick into the path of the runner. And that's the type of player that he is from what we've all seen. And is all these players that we have and two up the front, we just can't afford to keep playing the same way with one lone striker. We're not getting the goals. It's obvious it isn't working.
I mean, if we go back to what Harry was saying, I mean, obviously we don't know about Maka, whether his injury's a bad one or not a bad one. But, you know, Maka's been playing at left back. He's not a left back. He's done a reasonable job there while he's been playing at left back. But if you've got Maka as left centre, you've got Alfie Jones and Hughes there, you know, as your three centre backs. And then you've got somebody like Kamara on one side. And as you said, Chris, Lincoln on the other side. You know, that could work.
Anything like that.
You know, that could definitely work for you. Jan says, well said, Paul. Fed up of saying that, back off the defence. It's not the defence's problem, it's the attack's problem.
Just back to Kamara quickly. I think this, like, we are always going to play a 4-back system. And my reservation, if Kamara ends up playing left back in that, I think it was only a temporary solution. But Matty Jacobs not been on the bench last couple of games. And if McLaughlin's injury is particularly bad, and before anyone says it, don't say put Lincoln there because he's played there 8 times. And it's another thing with square pegs in round holes. We shouldn't have to do this. We should have got a left back in January. And if we have to end up putting Lincoln, Kamara, etc. in there, I worry because Kamara's sort of work rate has come under scrutiny in terms of his tracking back. And I don't think defensively he'd be very good.
I won't play him left back. I won't play him left back, Joe. If Sean McLaughlin is injured and he can't play, then Matty Jacob for me has to be your first choice to play at left back. And why he's not on the bench on last night, I'm not sure, to be quite honest with you, because ultimately you're playing Sean McLaughlin, who's not a left back, in the left back position. If you want to change that, you know, positively, as a left back, not as a left winger, not as a left, you know, as a 3-5-2 player. If you want to change it positively when you're playing 4-4-2, Matty Jacob has to be the player in there.
Yeah, he does. And
we are all
Harry's
forgetting about
same
Cody,
as
by
me.
the way.
Go on.
Cody Drameh. We're all forgetting about Cody.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned his name once. And that was the thing about yesterday when obviously McLaughlin came off. I thought, right, Cody is the only kind of one that's played in that position before. Yeah. But I don't understand why he wasn't an option to come on yesterday.
No.
He can't be that far down the pecking order.
To be honest. I think it was because we needed a goal and he thought, right, Amrabat, go. And that cross Amrabat did, by the way, that was really weird. Yeah. But
he did. I mean, Amrabat came on and he's done a couple of cameos and looked all right. Last night won the game that he looked all right and he just he didn't get into the game last night and it didn't work. And you know, listen, we all know we could have played till midnight last night and we still wouldn't have scored a goal. Would have still been sat there all looking at the TV. And, you know, as soon as the game finished last night, I turned it off. I was just, you know, I wasn't interested in anything.
Their keeper was having a cup of tea most of the night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was.
He didn't have to do that.
I mean, I think, did we have more than one shot on target or was it just that one? There we go. Joe's looking for us now.
That was one.
It was just one.
Just one shot on target. And this is, you know, ultimately, as fans, you know, of the football club, one thing I want to say is well done to the fans that went down there last night. I know Jan was one of them. I know Lee was one of them. Well done to you guys for going down there. Tuesday, they got in at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning after going all the way to Cardiff to watch that shambles last night. So well done to the fans for going down there. The other thing I want to mention is how the hell are we still getting 20,000 fans at home when we've won 4 games in 14 months and we've scored 33 goals?
Hope.
You know what, Chris? That is a really good way of putting it. I think it is hope. We're all hoping that something has to change at some point soon.
Look, if you're a gambling person, out of percentages, out of the amount of home games you've got to go to, there's got to be an extra win in there at home. Out of percentages, you're doing all these coin flips over and over again. Guarantee one of them's going to be a win. So it's. But
you know, in all seriousness, we are doing really well to still be getting 20 because it nearly is 20,000 home fans that are coming through the gate every home game, and to still be getting that in the position that we're in. The way that we've been playing at home, not a lot of excitement, not a lot of goals. It's really good and, you know, well done to the fans for still coming through. And, you know, I hope that we can keep that for next season. And I suppose it depends on where we are next season. We all missed the last League One season where, you know, we was winning everything. It would have been a great season to watch. Unfortunately, we had to watch it on the TV because of the COVID. But, you know, if we did go down to League One, it might be a bit more entertaining than this season, might it, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, with the team we've got, and then all the people to come back, like all our players that have been injured should hopefully be back. Maybe not at the very, very start, but throughout the early days of next season. If we were to go down, you would expect us to win almost every game with the team we have.
Paul, do we keep all of those players though if we go down?
I doubt it. I doubt it very much. You know.
And you're going to keep Balumi out yet, and you're going to keep Miller because they're not going to be fit enough to come back and sort of start. They'll probably start the season, but no club's going to take a chance on them, are they, in signing them until probably January. If they are going to sign them. So you are going to have them too, but, you know, it's how many... I mean, Alzate is definitely not going to be with us next season if we go down.
If we go down, don't keep Hughes, I don't think. Don't keep Panda. Don't get to keep Barry again. Don't get to sign Gelhardt. Depending on how bad Matazo's injury is, we don't keep him. It could jeopardise Puerta Zambrano, how those two work.
It'll be another rebuild, won't it? Be a rebuild.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's another thing that we don't need, isn't it? We don't need a rebuild. I mean, last time we went down, we did go down, and we kept quite a lot of the core players that we already had, and we started with those players, and those players had been together. If you start to rebuild, then you lose that momentum, don't you?
It's a rebuild again, though, but this time with no money, because in League One. Although there's no financial regulations, I've done this point to death. I say it just about every week. Although Adjan hates FFP, we couldn't do what Birmingham have done. And, that'll be a blueprint for some clubs who go down in the future. I think Luton will do it if when they go down, because they've still got parachute money. And they'll have such a big revenue gap between the rest of League One, where they can spend to get back in the division and get back in the Championship with a solid Championship mid-table team at the top of League One. We couldn't do that. The money simply isn't there. If when Adjan first took over, Liam Rosenior failed to keep us up after he came in, and we went back down to League One when we'd got Tufan, Seri, etc., we'd have sold Tufan, we'd have sold Seri, etc., and we'd have made more money, and we still had FFP wiggle room and more cash in the bank, and we could have done that Birmingham blueprint then and made it our blueprint. If we're to go down, we cannot do that, and any fan who thinks that we can is naive or stupid, and that's up to you individually if you think that to decide.
Right, well, we've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And just before we go, I will say this, it's a big chunk of money. I think it was 66 million that were in debt to Adjan for. Now, my argument, just before we obviously can't get too deep into this with the time we've got left, but my argument is that it's him that's made these decisions to put us 66 million in debt. So really, it's his financial burden. And if he did decide that he didn't want to plough anything more in, then he has to take the risk for that, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah. I think it's his fault we're in the position we are in now, because he signed the wrong manager, they didn't sign the players at the right time, and we've been catch up all season. And obviously it's steadied a little bit under Sayers, but it's, he's been behind all the time. He's been behind the 8 ball all the time. We needed a better start to the season with the right manager in position and the right players in position. I think, if we go down, it's totally his fault, to be honest. I know the players are going to get the blame, but
I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter that say exactly that, to be quite honest with you. Lots of people have said it. Jan's just agreed, lots of people have said that it's definitely John's fault if we do go down. Have we got any final comments before we go, Joe?
Just on this last point, Harry's coming with... just don't sell them, they're under contract. There's no financial fair play or PSR, so you can keep your players. There's no benefit of selling your best players at cut price because you got relegated. No,
he's right, and that's we've done this selling them under value, and we shouldn't have done it.
But if there's a financial black hole, like we are going to be spending more money than we are bringing in, then we will. If we go down, we will have to sell people, and chances are
there's no FFP, so you don't.
No, but what I'm saying is if we're selling more, if we're putting more money out weekly, massively with the revenue gap, and we're coming in, there's a black hole in the finances, for the want of a better phrase, then that does need to be plugged. And the easiest way to do it is player sales. Or
he's right in what he says, because when you look at Jacob Greaves, we sold him too cheap. We could have probably held on a little bit more for Philogene and got them battling it out a little bit more and got a bit more money out of that. I do agree with what he's saying. We need to be a bit smarter and we need to a bit cuter. And if we do sell players, we need to get the right money for them.
More ruthless.
We do, Chris. Yeah, we do.
It's a case. And look, we say we're not ruthless enough on the pitch. We're not ruthless enough in Hull as a club.
No.
I agree. Look, if some players want to leave, yes, all right, get it. We want to go, but you don't go. Okay, off you go. There you go. £2.50 later. No, if you want to go, fine. I respect that, but you've got to understand. I want the dollar for you to go somewhere to make it right. Out
Yeah.
So I would never. If I was an owner, I would never say I'm keeping you here. I get that, but I would never say I'm giving you away.
No.
And the
I think
player
you- I
must
think
understand
a
that.
player should have a value, and you should have a value in your head, and you should stick to that value as much as you possibly can, and try and get as best money as you can for the club, because ultimately that's what it's about, is trying to keep the club going. Let's hope that we don't have these decisions to make. Let's hope that we can stay in the Championship. Let's hope that we get a win against Plymouth at home next Tuesday. We'll be talking about it here on Tiger Talk and on Hull and Back podcast on Wednesday. So looking forward to talking about that. Let's hope that we're all smiling. We're talking about a win and it's helping us to stay in the Championship. I've been Eddie Wright.
I've been Joe Collins.
I've been Paul Wright.
I've been Chris Sorensen.
And you've been listening to Hull and Back podcast and Tiger Talk on Humber Wave Radio and online. We'll be back next Wednesday from 7 o'clock. Have a great week. Don't let City get to you too much, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.